Hi, I'm Adrian Fu, and I'm going to answer the tutorial questions about the conflict in organization in relation to relationship management theory. So, for my organization, I have chosen Red Bull Malaysia, the Red Bull European International brand in Malaysia, as my organization. And the conflict is external conflict. The external conflict is between the organization and the consumers. Why? Because there's an existence of another Red Bull called the Red Bull Gold Can from Thailand that exists in Malaysia. And with this Red Bull Gold Can and the Red Bull International can, consumers in the local market are confused between the Thailand Gold Can Red Bull and the Blue and Silver International Europe Red Bull, which is called Red Bull International. So that is the conflict, the big conflict between the consumers and the organization. There's no definite distinction between the two different brands for the consumers, and that's why consumers don't understand what the what Red Bull is, and they don't know which Red Bull is the real one or which Red Bull is which. In order to resolve that conflict, it by applying the relationship management theory, the 5 segments or 5 points in which the conflict can be resolved or it can be addressed. So the first one is understanding the wants and needs of all the parties. For the organization as the first party, Red Bull Europe International brand wants the local market to be able to distinguish their brand from other energy drinks, especially their biggest competitor, the Red Bull Gold Can from Thailand. So Red Bull Europe International needs their consumers or the local market to know and understand the differences between their Red Bull and the Thailand Gold Can Red Bull. Obviously, Red Bull International is not as well known in Malaysia as compared to the Gold Can because of elements such as the confusion and the pricing, and hence they want more people to want or need to buy their products or their energy drink in appropriate situations and times. Whereas the other party, being the consumers, in the local market, have a vast spectrum of needs and wants. More often than not, especially because our country's weather is always so blazing hot, consumers find themselves to tire easily or to run out of energy and become quite lethargic very fast. So they need energy or something to keep them awake. Also, when they are trying to buy some energy in any form, such as food or even drinks, energy drinks, consumers want it at the lowest price possible, but with the highest quality and rate of effectiveness. So those are the wants and needs of both the parties, which is the organization's wants and needs and the consumer's wants and needs. And the second point would be how well the parties understand each other. What Red Bull International Europe does is to send their own people out to the field to directly interact and communicate with potential consumers about the product and educate those consumers on differences between Red Bull International and the Thailand Red Bull Gold Can. In that way, they are able to increase the consumer's understanding of what the brand is about and how they can differentiate the Red Bull International brand from any other energy drinks. And in the perspective of the consumers, Red Bull understands the consumer's needs and wants by giving out Red Bull cans at the times of the day the consumers need it and needs it most. And in that way, Red Bull is able to educate the customers while attending to their needs of needing more energy at the point of time. For example, Red Bull International sends out some of their own people, so-called the samplers, during lunch hours or during hours where most people play sports or go to sports centers to work out or gyms to work out. to provide energy to those consumers or people who need the energy most, so that they can continue on their day after maybe having a heavy lunch, which generally makes people sleepy, or after a long workout or a long sport session. And also, Red Bull International understands that the local market will buy something that is cheaper, although there is no quality and not as much effectiveness, because money is always the biggest concern amongst the local target market. So Red Bull International prices their drinks on an average of 5 ringgit and 30 cents after GST for a 250 milliliters can, which is a pretty affordable price for a premium international brand as compared to Thailand's Red Bull Gold can, which is priced at 3 ringgit and 70 cents per can of a 250 milliliter can. So there isn't as much of a big difference as a lot of people might think, considering the fact that Red Bull International is a more premium brand and international brand that even supports F1 and MotoGP, big events like those. But Red Bull Cold Can is only sold in the Southeast Asia, and they do not support any of these international events. For the third point, the potential and actual benefits, particularly the mutual benefits of all parties get along well with each other. The potential mutual benefits between Red Bull International and its consumers would be that consumers that were educated more about the Red Bull International brand would buy their own Red Bull Europe International drinks whenever they need it the next time, after the Red Bull people has sampled them and given them to try their drink at the time of need. It benefits both parties as the consumers get what they paid for, as it is highly effective and somewhat affordable to them, and Red Bull International increases their number of regular customers and increases their sales in Malaysia, as well as being able to make their brand well known in Malaysia. So the actual benefit, the mutual benefit between the Red Bull International in Malaysia and the local market consumers is that during sampling of when the Red Bull team gives out cans to each person to try during the times of need or when they need it the most, the consumer benefits from it because they are actually given or provided with more energy at that point of time when the samplers or the Red Bull people know when they need the energy, not just giving them whenever they feel like it. In return, Red Bull International, the organization, gets to educate more and more people in the local market about the brand, its differences, and what the brand is about through personal contacts via the samplers. This helps increase the number of people who would potentially buy a can of their own in the future, as well as increasing the number of people who would know more about that brand. So for the fourth point, understanding the type of relationship between the organization and the consumers. In my opinion, the type of relationship formed between the organization and the consumers are more personal than anything, as the samplers or the Red Bull people would have direct contact and communication with the consumers, which enables them to engage in more fun, engaging and a closer kind of relationship, or which from the communication they have with each other. In the last point, the fifth point, understanding whether the relationship is based on symbolism or participation. In my opinion, I think the relationship is more towards participation because there is some kind of involvement or a high involvement rate of the organization in the consumer's life, as well as the consumers in the organization's lifestyle. The organization places their own people out in the public places where people would usually go to sample their products, to give them the energy they need at that time. In that sense, the organization is trying to implement and show how the Red Bull International drink can be part of their lifestyle, and the samplers can get involved in a friendly conversation with the consumers. Also, it goes vice versa, as the samplers try and get a two-way conversation going on between them and the potential consumers. So this shows personal interaction, personal interaction, which includes participation from both parties to talk to each other. Um, on a bigger scale, Red Bull International doesn't just want to educate people about their brand, but also to educate people about how Red Bull International is more of a lifestyle than just an ordinary energy drink. The organization itself gets involved with some of their consumers, whereby they find potential talents and athletes or anything potential talents and groom them to become the next big thing or help them achieve their dreams and goals just by being a Red Bull athlete or to be supported by Red Bull International. Hence, this shows that the organization is heavily involved in this handful of people's lives, where they encourage, groom, help publicize, and make their dreams and talents come to life. Examples of this handful of people are F1 racers Daniel Ricciardo and Daniel Kvyat, the local band Kyoto Protocol, and the local DJ Bait. Also, the man who freefalled from space in 2012, Felix Baumgartner, was one of the people who Red Bull groomed and helped achieve his dream. And there's so many more. So shows that Red Bull International Organization gets heavily involved with their consumers in general.